as you can see, if we're going to transform our lives, we need practice. We need practice in a new way of being. And the stones are incredibly helpful in that way because they connect us with these expanded, higher vibrational kinds of awareness that are the ones that are the most rewarding and the ones that are aspects of our true nature. So we'll be doing that in the workshop. I'm working on creating the practices for the workshop right now. And I'll talk to you in a moment about the several different ones that I'm planning on presenting. But the idea is there are different qualities of consciousness that make up our wholeness and are reflected in our subtle bodies. In the intensive, we'll work with the stone combinations that facilitate the experience of each of these different qualities. So now, what are the qualities I'm talking about? What are the exercises we're going to do? I'm just going to say a word about each of these because I'm aware that we don't want to go on for hours here, although it would be easy for me to do. So here's just the list and the stones we're going to be using for these purposes in the 4-day event this December. The first practice is called awakening our central channel. You know, we have a physical body and we have a subtle body that's a kind of envelope, you might say, that holds our physical body and permeates it. It's composed of just what the name says, subtle energy. It's not as solid as our material body, and it's much more malleable and changeable, and it's basically vibrational and energetic in nature, and it has a closer connection to the ultimate spark of the divine nature of the world and ourselves than we usually notice in our physical bodies, even though all of it is connected. So, in the subtle body, there is a central channel. The chakra columns go along that central channel. The first exercise we'll do at the intensive is called awakening our central channel, and we'll use two kinds of stones, Tibetan tektites, which are cousins of moldavites, and anandalites, which are in the quartz family. And both of these are very powerful at stimulating that up and down corridor of energy that corresponds to the chakras and parallels the spine. That's how it is in our subtle body. So to wake ourselves up and get started and have ourselves be more sensitive to the energies of all the stones we'll be working with, we'll start with awakening that central channel. Next, we'll do a process that I call deepening into stillness. And in that process, we'll work with a stone called Master Shamanite and another one called Black Azesculite, and one of the more familiar ones that I'm sure most of you know called hematite. And these stones are all deeply grounding. They help us connect with the earth and with the stillness that is omnipresent in the earth, in us, in all things, including space. But this stillness requires that a lot of the different varying vibrations in our subtle body quiet down so that we can notice it. Stillness is the base from which everything else arises. So these stones, when we meditate with them, I've learned, will help us deepen very easily into the stillness. And there's something wonderfully nourishing and rewarding about that place. I won't spoil it by talking about it a lot, but when we get together in the event, not only will I talk about it more, but we'll have that experience. So the next exercise I call expanding into unlimited awareness. And just as the prior exercise was quieting, this is still remaining in stillness, but expanding awareness to infinity. It's, that's how far it goes. There's no end, there's no boundary. And for that kind of expansion will work with white azestulite, sarolite azestulite, which is from New Zealand, amazes, which is another azestulite that has amethyst as one of its components, blue-green azestulite, and infinite. So these are probably mostly stones that are less well known than things like hematite and quartz and so forth. But they're some of the highest vibration stones that some of the highest vibration stones I've found in my career, and I work with them all the time, and I love bringing people into connection with them. This piece here is a white azestulite. It's one of the very first ones that I ever had, and it connects with an angelic group soul intelligence called Azez, that serves what they term the nameless light of the great central sun, which to me is also very much connected with that golden sun that I told you about. And I'll just jump now to sarolite azestulite because I have a piece of it here. This is another high vibration stone similar to white azestulite in terms of its chemical structure, but very, very sweet and expansive and gentle in its energy. So I'm not going to show you all of these stones, but some of them are here at my fingertips, so I picked those ones up as we go through. That expansion is the next stage in our vibrational process that we'll go through as we sort of take the steps up the ladder in this 4 days. The next level, or the next process, is the one I call love and healing. And this is a heart-centered process. And in that one, we'll work with healerite, morganite, pink amethyst, pink petalite, pink azestulite, and rosophia. That's a whole complex of very loving, very soft, very nurturing heart energy stones. So the purpose of that is to saturate our heart chakra in the energy of love, so that emotional healing, which is in many ways the root level of almost all of our healing, can take place more readily. So I put love and healing together because the way we address healing is through the subtle body. The imbalances that we carry in our subtle bodies are often, I would say many times, the roots of what we would think of as physical illnesses. They're really just expressions of the imbalance we carry in the subtle body, imbalances. So these stones help bring those things into balance through the saturation of love. So that's the love and healing section of our 4 days, and we'll spend a good bit of time working with those kinds of processes, and there'll be more than one. The next level, or the next aspect of consciousness we'll reach towards, is called strength and power. And in that section of the workshop, we'll work with stones called healer's gold, guardianite, red fire azestulite, vitalite, and auralite 23. So now this is an interesting complex mixture of stones because strength and power derives from the beginning manifestation of our wholeness. It is the manifestation of our wholeness. That's where strength and power comes from. So there is this incorporation of the earlier dimensions of consciousness that you might liken to some of the classical 4 elements, for example. Earth is connected with stillness, and air is connected with expansion, and water is connected with love, and fire is connected with power. And this other quality of strength has to do with bringing those 4 elements together in harmonious unity in our own subtle body. And it gives us a kind of a feeling of uprightness and sturdiness and connection to all these other 4 layers of ourselves in an integrated and harmonized way. So those stones that I've just mentioned for this section all support and facilitate that. Healer's Gold is a great balancer of the meridian system and a strengthener. Guardianite is protection from negative influences around us. Red Fire Azesculite is vitality and life force energy. And Vitalite, again, is more life force, more exuberance. And Auralite 23 is another layer of spiritual protection as well as an influence toward healing. So that's the kind of stones we'll work with in the Strength and Power section. The section that I call the Fire of Transformation, this is where we really get into the fire element more intensely. And for that one, we'll be using Moldavite, which is a very intense and powerful, dynamic, fiery energy of transformation. Pink Fire is Azesculite. Green Fire is Azesculite. All these stones that disclose their nature by the fact that they have fire in their names. Himalaya Gold is Azesculite, another very powerful one from the Himalayas, and a stone called Cinnases that's from New Zealand actually, and is a mixture of cinnabar and Azesculite. Cinnabar being the gemstone or the mineral that the alchemists, through their interest in mercury, were most fascinated by. So we'll really be working in this section on energetic and meditative practices with the help of these stones that will push forward transformation, this revolution of energy and consciousness in us. So I'll say just that's enough about that one for the moment. We'll move to the next one, interdimensional travel. And for interdimensional travel, this is in a certain way, it's like going up and out into the higher aspects of consciousness throughout the universe. It's going up into the angelic realms. It's going up into the high vibrational realms of the spirit guides and of, devas and maybe even extraterrestrial entities of a benevolent nature. But it's all the different dimensions of this sort of mansion with a million doors that is the domain of higher consciousness. And for the facilitation of that journey, or those many journeys, we'll use azazeo-phenakite, danburite, celestite, natrolite, and shungite. I only have one of those stones right here with me, but it is phenakite. And you can almost see just from the physical appearance of this crystal that it's got a kind of an interdimensional nature. It really opens up the third eye and the crown chakra very powerfully. And all the phenokites are the premier stones of the third eye activation. And it's through the third eye that we enter the higher dimensions as we do these journeys. So in our 4-day workshop, if you can believe, we'll have time for all of this. We'll do this as well. We'll take some interdimensional journeys with the help of these stones. And then the next layer, the next level, the next layer of consciousness that we'll address is I call Ascension into Unity with Divine Intelligence. And this is in a more simple way. This is what is known as entering into a state of knowingness. When our consciousness has been expanded and our vibrational pattern has accelerated and our old habitual shell has been broken open so that we can access more of this, then the unity with divine intelligence is one of the things that we can experience. And, it sounds pretty grand, but it can be very intimate and a part of just you being you. I guess I'll describe it this way. I mentioned earlier that when I was doing my Moldavite meditation, and I was imagining the beginning of it. And there was a moment at which the imagination took off on its own, and it was no longer being directed by me. It was unfolding of itself. That's one event in which I was connected with what I call divine intelligence, because it was no longer trying to make it happen. It was happening of its own, and it knew where it wanted to take me, and it revealed to me what I needed to see. So in that consciousness, it reminds me of like some of the sayings of Jesus, like ask and you shall be answered, or knock and the door will open. The imagination that we begin our meditations with is the knocking, and the answering is this connection with divine intelligence, where suddenly we experience knowingness suddenly, or maybe not so suddenly, but the experience of knowing, not thinking, comes to us. And the stones that we use for that are Sandarosa azestulite, New Zealand white azestulite that actually comes from the South Island, where we'll be doing this event, scolasite from India, and Satyaloka clear azestulite, which is a very, very high vibration stone that comes from South India. So now there's one other stage that I'll talk about today, and that is the one I call experiencing the infinite fullness of the self. And this is where all of these expansions and all of these transcendences and all of the vibrational ascension and everything that we went into when we open ourselves up is brought back down and is condensed, you might even say, or just integrated into our own being in the physical location of our body. And for me, and I think probably for anyone else, the natural place of that is the heart. So we have practices that will engage us in becoming aware of the whole array of consciousness that we've accessed, and drawing the threads of it back into ourselves, and weaving a kind of a tapestry in the heart that incorporates the threads of everything we've done together. Another way of saying it, in alchemy, they called it making the philosopher's stone, the forming of a stone in our own being. And of course, it's not a physical stone, but it's as solid as a stone, meaning it's immovable, it's unchangeable. Once we have gone through the whole process that I very, very briefly sketched here, and come back and integrate it into our hearts, when that really happens, then we are experiencing and living out of our true nature, which is divine nature. So that's what I call the infinite fullness of the self. Now, for that process, for that practice, we'll work with a very happy stone called golden brucite. It's the stone of absolute levity and joy, which is one of the qualities of the infinite fullness of the self. All these spiritual practices can seem very serious and awesome and, I don't know, impressive, I guess is the word I want. And yet, when we're really in our true nature, we are ourselves, and we express through our personalities still, and yet we have a lightness and a levity and a joy about us. And this stone is my favorite one for invoking that. I mean, I can't even keep myself from smiling just holding it and talking about it here. And along with that, with the golden brucite, we'll use revelation stone, hartonite, Azimar, a stone of a much softer and sweeter variety of joy, and a crystal that is called Lemurian mist. So these are all just lovely, lovely stones, very comfortable to be with. They don't explode your consciousness into the cosmos. They do help integrate a comfortable, knowing, full, joyful, complete, whole selfhood, which is the fulfillment of the journey that we are taking together. So it's very ambitious for me to say that we're going to do all this. And I will say we will do all these things. We'll do all these practices. And it will give everyone a chance to experience each of these aspects of awareness, and also to experience how the stones can help us shift our vibrational expression in order to resonate with these different aspects of consciousness. So these are the main areas where we'll focus our attention. Although as time permits over this 4 days, we'll go deeper into some of them. And healing's one of those areas, as I mentioned. Another is to fully awaken and activate the chakra system, which will begin with the very first practice. And both of these are important in shaping and strengthening the subtle body. And that is, of course, that's part of what I mean by transformation. Is the subtle body in most people who haven't meditated and who haven't worked energetically is undeveloped. It's there, but it's not fully developed, and it's rather passive. And one of the things we discover on this path of stones and of exploring the spiritual path of stones is that we can be proactive in terms of, you might call it being subtle body bodybuilders. We can strengthen our subtle bodies through experience and practice, and with the help of the stone beings who very much want to see human beings awaken and to see the whole earth awaken. And the ultimate desire and goal of both the ancient alchemists and myself and the friends that I treasure on this path is that full awakening of awareness and consciousness and love and wholeness for all of us and for the earth itself. I think it's very, very possible, and I'm very grateful to have found my path among the stones. And I hope that some of you who hear this will be moved to come and join us in New Zealand on the South Island. If you want more information about this, there's several ways to get it. I'll put them in the links. I'll put links below in the under the video, but also you can get in touch with the Heaven and Earth company, which is my company, by emailing heavenandearth@earthlink.net. And you can just use the subject line December New Zealand Workshop. I wish many blessings to everybody who's watching this video, and I hope you had some interest in what I had to tell you and share with you about the stone beings and their energies and how I see the potentialities that we can experience. Thank you very, very much.